I say that we just agree to not have that awkward introduction. We just jump right in like we're best friends because we basically are, and that's how we want it to be. So, hello
Yes.
everybody. I'm your host MJ. This is my co-host Sam, and we are basically your two new best friends that just happen to be expert dog trainers, and that way we can help you out. So to get started, I figured that we would just talk about who we are, what our background is, so you can get to know us a little bit, and that way you trust taking advice from us, because I would never take advice from somebody that I knew nothing about. So Sam, tell me about you. Do you have a business? Where are you? All that good stuff.
I do have a business. I've owned and operated Canine Insight LLC for a little, coming up on 3.5 years now. I've been training for upwards of 10 years now at this point, training professionally. I operate out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I also own 4 dogs myself, 2 Belgian Malinois, a boxer, and a little shelter pit bull mutt.
Oh, Riley.
Riley.
My name is MJ. I'm your other co-host. I currently own Cape Canine Academy on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. I've owned my business for, what year is it? About 4 years now. It started as Instinctual Canine in Denver, Colorado, and then last year I moved out to Massachusetts and changed it over to Cape Canine Academy. Just like Sam, I've been training for just about 10 years, a little less than Sam. I'm just hitting my 10-year mark. And Sam and I used to work together at a training facility in the Springs before we owned our own businesses. That's how we met. I have significantly less dogs. I have 2. I don't have as many as she does. Sam, tell me, with your business, what do you currently offer?
So right now, I primarily specialize in just like general pet obedience, how to live and exist with animals that we expect to live in our domestic dogs and to live in a human world. So how you live with them, how you play with them, how you interact with them. In some senses, I take on aggression cases, human and dog aggression. I also have 2 dogs who are dog aggressive as well. And how I manage and train that on a day-to-day basis is something that I'm kind of interested to be able to dive into a little bit and give my perspective on how I deal with it and how I live with it, because it's a pretty common thing that a lot of other people have to deal with sometimes, and it's pretty hectic. So I'm excited to give my insight on that.
For your in-home stuff that you do, or your in-person training, not this podcast, do you offer privates, board and trains, group classes?
Yes, I do all the above. I also offer some day training services, but that's with Colorado wintertime now coming up, that will probably be slim because of limited weather time.
Oh yeah, I think I saw you guys got a lot of snow, didn't you, today?
About coming up on about 8 inches now total.
Dang.
I've shoveled 3 different times already today, and it is 12:30.
It is 65 and sunny out right now.
Yeah, I was just in Arizona not too long ago, and coincidentally, it was the weekend that it started snowing there as well. So,
Ugh, I honestly, I do miss Colorado. I didn't think I would, but today I don't. I'm happy with my
yeah,
sunny weather.
I would be.
So I do private in-home lessons. I do group classes. I actually teach a reactive rover class. So I teach a group class specific to reactivity, which I love doing. It's the only group class that I'm teaching right now. And then I do a type of in-home day training where I go to my clients' homes and I work with their dogs while they take a break, go grocery shopping, clean, take a nap, whatever they want to do. And I include that with a private lesson at the end of the week so that it just puts a little bit more work on my shoulders and less on theirs. But I don't do board trains right now. Is the one that I don't do.
Yeah.
I know that you said you specialize in kind of that behavior type problems, the reactivity, the dog aggression, that type of stuff. You like doing that stuff?
I do. It's its own beast, though. It has its own, pros and cons to it. Not only living with that, but also trying to reiterate how important it is to live a certain lifestyle with dogs like that. And so, with that, and I think a lot of trainers can attest to, burnout can happen pretty quick with things like that, and dealing with that just day in and day out, and it gets exhausting. But there's a really, really, really big benefit to doing that, and there's a big like internal relief that I get when it like clicks for people, and then they get it, and they still get to have the dog that they want and the dog that they love, and they just know that there's other ways that they can still operate and live their lives, and the dogs are still biologically fulfilled, and they still live a happy life. And it's just their life is a little smaller. They're limited on certain things they can do or go or wherever, but they can still live happy lives within what we can give them.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. I'm going to be a little more specific in mine. So I would say I do specialize in reactivity, but I prefer fear based or anxiety based or excitement based. So those get a little
Yeah.
different. I don't
Yeah.
typically prefer the dogs that are just conflict
Man
oriented,
eaters.
which is hilarious because one of my two dogs, my German Shepherd Grim, who Sam knows very well, he is conflict oriented, and I actually used to like working with that kind of stuff, and then I got him, and now I think I'm so sick of it that I just am
Yeah.
I'm not taking a break from it, but I definitely prefer either those happy-go-lucky dogs that are just
Yeah.
frustration based, they want to go say hi, or the dogs that are really insecure, as opposed to the dogs that are, oh, I want to go stir up the pot over there.
Yeah,
Um,
and with having higher drive or like the shepherdy type dogs that we have, we tend to run into those conflict, the dogs that
mhm.
like conflict and the dogs that seek it. And I also have dogs who like to choose violence for certain aspects to solving solutions. So that's an important thing for me to learn, how they can live conflict free within the realm of still being a pet and still being living in a house. And my two Malinois are a very good example of that.
Yeah. So it's funny because I have this conversation with my clients a lot about those conflict oriented dogs because I do get a lot of them in my training programs. I think I must be a magnet for it because not only is it
Yeah.
my own dog, but everybody who calls me. So I have
Yep.
this conversation with my clients a lot because I think that dog owners don't quite understand what we mean when we talk about conflict based. So, like,
Dogs
when
who
we
like conflict.
yeah, and conflict is a play style. So it doesn't always mean that the dog wants to cause damage or that they just hate other dogs. It can
Right.
be kind of the playground bully type of situation. So, like my shepherd, for example, I have to be really careful about around small puppies because he's not really used to being around them. And I know this at a point, it's enough of a pattern, but I don't have it happen enough that I can really practice it and fix it. Is if we go on a walk and there's a tiny puppy like 16 weeks or under, he will wait, he will walk right past it and he will be totally fine. And right as it passes us, he will do one big like jump, lunge in its direction and bark. And then immediately look back at me with this proud look like, did you see what I did? I made it jump. And it's
Right.
not that he wants to
I
hurt
made
the
it do
puppy.
something.
Yeah, it's just that was so much fun. And I
Yeah.
kind of describe it in people as like there are certain people that are conflict oriented. And my husband loves to point this out because I tend to be conflict oriented. Like I need to stir the pot sometimes just for fun. Like I don't know what it is. It's a red flag. I should fix it. I should probably get therapy and work on it. But sometimes I just have to pick a fight with him. And they always say that dogs and their humans tend to be a lot alike, and my shepherd and I are definitely a lot alike in that instance.
Yeah.
So when we say conflict oriented in this podcast, it doesn't necessarily mean that your dog is a bad dog or that they're a mean dog. It's just a play style and something that some dogs really crave.
Yeah. It's also a sense of control too for some dogs
Yeah.
to be kind of bully-esque like that, or
Hmm.
find a thrill in getting a rise out of another dog, whether that's a frustrated rise or if it's like a scared rise. Either way, they got a reaction, and sometimes any reaction's better than no reaction. So
Yeah. 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 So Sam and I are definitely your trainers for reactivity. I also really like anxiety in general, even if it's not reactivity based. But
I
what type
tend
of
I tend to
dogs?
dislike anxiety a little bit more.
Yeah, a lot of trainers do. I get that a lot. Like when I was living up in Denver, there was like two different dog trainers where if somebody reached out to them with separation anxiety, they would just send them to me. And they were like, "Oh, I hate it. Why do you like it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just do. I
I,
think I like the confidence building portion. Like I like the
yeah.
look that I see on an owner's face when they see their dog start to get come out of their shell and be more comfortable. I love that."
Yeah. I think for me, it just might need to be an area that is strengthened in my skill set. Maybe that's where I can find a little bit more value or appreciation in it. Not that there's not
Yeah.
value, because there's definitely value in it, but
Yeah.
um, it's just something maybe I need to strengthen for me to understand it a little better, to enjoy it more thoroughly. I just don't get a lot of, I think reactivity and separation anxiety can kind of be one and the same. So I get a
Yeah.
lot of both anyways.
Yeah, they can definitely go together. You kind of bring me around to my next point that I wanted to ask you, which is while we kind of specialize in the reactivity and we like that, are there any types of dog training that you don't do?
Any type of dog training.
Yeah, like if like so for me, I
Oh,
personally right now I'm not taking human aggression cases.
yeah.
Um, and part of it is that I think I used to be more confident in it than I am now. And I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that's because I'm a better trainer now. And as you get better at this job, you tend to have less confidence in it because you realize how much you don't know. And also,
Yeah.
I'm just not exposed to it as much as I was when I was working in a facility with other trainers and, high volume. But I also just don't
Yeah.
enjoy it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
enjoy working with it. So I've just cut it from my programs because I want to enjoy going to work every day. So I don't do human aggression. And then the other thing that I will tell people or turn them away for is I'm happy to help them with obedience and public access type of skills for prospect service dogs, but I don't teach any type of medical detection. So no
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
diabetic alert
Alert.
or yeah, I don't do those.
I would say I am less inclined with human aggression. I would say one of my dogs is also kind of slash human aggressive in some scenarios. So like with that also comes a little bit of management and understanding of how it works. So for me, I really love not necessarily my approach to the situation or the subject, but I like the fact that I live a little bit of it and I can relate it in such a human way and not a dog trainer fluff, like fill your dreams and kind of fill you with lies a little bit. I think I'm just so real with people and so honest and upfront that I can get away with taking on a little bit more of those cases, although it's there's a huge liability in it. There's so much risk, but um when I do have the chances to take on those cases, I feel like I do really well just because I'm very very honest and very thorough with people when they ask. However, I would say again, I don't really do that very much. Other than that, I do also offer like public access skills for service dog foundations. I'm actually working with one right now, but the service dog training, alert training, any sort of uh, service dog related, I don't do. And so,
Yeah, it's a big liability to do that. And I think something that I've been frustrated with for a while is how everybody wants a service dog. And you get people who call you that want a service dog and they're even willing to pay big money for it, but they get a dog
mhm.
that's not a good fit for service work. And it makes our jobs not just difficult to accomplish, but sometimes even unethical.
Yep. I also find the hardest part with that is although I'm not a service dog trainer, I know what it takes and the type of personality, temperament, and behaviors that the dog needs to possess. And because I'm not a service dog trainer, I don't know if people take our opinion as seriously just simply because we don't specialize in that. But I
Yeah.
do get a lot of people who ask that ask for service dog training or service dog certification. We all know that that's phony, but there's so much that goes into service dog training that I would love to learn, but it is just out of my skill set as well.
I definitely have the interest in learning the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the science behind certain things. Like I would love to learn the science behind medical detection, but from a business standpoint, it's just not something I have interest in right now to learn to do
Yeah,
professionally.
agreed.
Uh, Tell me about, I think you touched on it a little, but I want to know for full transparency's sake, because that is going to be the theme of our podcast is we're not always going to be perfect and we might have tough conversations sometimes. I want to know what you think your strengths are as a trainer and what you think your weaknesses are as a trainer.
Um, that's a really loaded question.
I go first if you want time to think.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'll let you
um,
go.
okay. Weaknesses is I get too emotionally involved and I have a really hard time saying no, like for sure. And I mean, that's not to say that I'm like a perfect dog trainer and the dog training skills are there. I would like to learn more about real, true aggression. Like I feel like reactivity and insecurity I've got a really good handle on. I can always learn more. But like those 1%er dogs that are just truly aggressive and confident in it, I'd like to learn more. I think my strengths are actually more teaching the humans than the dogs. Like I'm a good dog trainer. Like my clients are very, very happy. But
Yeah.
I have found that a lot of my clients have worked with several other trainers before and nothing works. And when I'm trying to figure out and talk to them why didn't it work, like how do we stop this cycle for you so that you can be successful and stop spending time and money trying to fix your dog and paying other people to do it, how can we do it? And I've found that I think I listen to my clients a little bit more than other trainers do and help them reach their goals instead of telling them what their goals should be, which usually results in very happy people and very happy dogs. So I'd say that's a strength of mine, but weakness is definitely that strong aggression and then setting boundaries with my clients sometimes is a weakness. Like I have a very hard time
Mhm.
saying Mondays are my day off, and I have 3 lessons this coming Monday, so I need to work on
Yeah,
that.
I get that one very much. Okay, so I'd say my weaknesses are like real deep rooted aggression as well. In a sense of like sport, I do a lot of bite sports. I participate in Frenching with my two Malinois. Well, my older male will probably not go back to the trial field, but with that, I have a deep deep love for the breeds who do well at bite sports, not just the shepherds, not just the Malinois. I would say my weakness is understanding them across the board and just knowing more about that. I would love to learn more about it. I don't necessarily know if it's a weakness because I do understand it really well, but
Yeah,
I have area to improve and I would love to learn a little bit more about it. I would love to be able to teach that a little bit more fluently personally. I understand it. I have a lot to understand still, but being able to teach that and help a little bit more people with dogs who like to be mean and give them an outlet and a place to do so and gives that conflict resolution that goes into it. That's a lot of fun for me to learn and teach people. But anyways, my strength I think is relatability with people. I feel pretty good for the most part about being able to reach my clients on a level that they understand what I'm saying. I understand dogs. I have a lot to improve on, but I do feel I have a fairly good grasp on most dogs and especially like the pets and pet type dogs that people have. I love being able to teach people about their dog's genetics and just like what the dogs are inclined to do and why their dogs make decisions why the dogs make the decisions that they do. And it's really fun for me to be able to teach people that and then them get it and they go,
yeah,
oh wow, okay, so that's why my dog does this, or oh that makes sense because of XYZ that I saw my dog do last week here. Or I just like them being able to understand it and problem solve on their own without them feeling frustrated or resentful towards their dog for not understanding why their dogs make the decisions that they do.
yeah. Now, listening to you talk, we have a bunch of similarities, and we have a bunch of
Yeah.
things that we both like or things that we both, take on as a business. What do you think we're different at? Or like where do you think we can complement each other for the listeners of our podcast?
Truthfully, the nutrition and health aspect of your background, I have a lot to learn and I have a lot to know about that. And I'm excited for whatever information that you would like to give that also might help me. But I'd say that that's a huge area that you are better at or have more knowledge in that you can give to helping dogs and helping
Mhm.
your clients' dogs live, conflict-free lives and such. I think that's a huge one.
I honestly forgot I even had knowledge in that. I like 2 to 3 years ago, I just went all into learning about nutrition, and then at one point, I think my ADHD kicked in and I, like, switched gears, but yes, I do still get really excited talking about dog food and ingredient labels and all of that. One of the things that I think I'm excited for throughout all of our episodes as we touch on different topics is while we have similar backgrounds and similar methodologies and similar interests, I find that I think you're a little more obedience based than I am, whereas I tend to be a little more. I don't think behavior based is quite a word that describes it correctly, but I feel like when behavior problems are presented, like if we were presented with the same client with the same behavior problem, I feel like you typically go down a path of obedience, and I typically go down a path of trying to get the dog to do different default behaviors, so make different choices or try to change what's going on in the dog's brain. And they both have really important aspects. And I definitely do obedience too. Like, it's not that I don't, but I feel like you're more well versed in a higher level of obedience than I am. Whereas I just try to
I
think outside the box sometimes and realize that my clients don't always want strong obedience. So I try to help them in
yeah.
other ways.
I think when I first branched out on my own that that's something that I really only knew how to
Mhm.
teach, just given what history and background I had had at that point. And that's where that would have been more inclination to do so. But I think in the more recent years, I am way more kind of in what you're saying, more behavior based, and that's not the right way to describe that. But
Yeah, we got to
um,
come up with a word for that, whatever it
yeah,
is that we're talking about.
yeah, because not
Yeah.
everybody needs a solid play stay. Like, is it helpful? Sure, yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
but it's not always the answer.
Yeah. And I think maybe what I mean by that is we both have that background with what we did before we branched out on our own, but it tends to be this advice of, okay, well, your dog jumps all over your guests at the door. You must teach them a place command. They must go to place and sit on place and wait for your guest to come in. And that's a good skill and it does help. But sometimes clients just want their dogs to just not run out the front door when people walk in, or they just want their dogs to just not jump. And I will say that sometimes, because every dog is different and every dynamic is different, there are some dogs that need more obedience. They don't make good choices on their own very well, and that's not a skill that is going to grow well for them. Whereas there are other dogs that you can learn, or you can teach them how to make better choices, and they need less obedience. So there's a spectrum there. I'm definitely trying to get back into the swing of more obedience. I think Sam knows my background. We both worked for this one place, and I'm not going to name it here for just safety and
just a
legal
big
reasons.
box franchise store.
Yes, just a big box franchise store. And I had I don't want to say a terrible experience there, but I watched what the training styles did to my own very young dog, and it made me just shy away from strict obedience a lot for a while. I was very kind of scarred from that. I started to not like obedience at all. So now I think I went off and learned about how to do other things other than obedience to solve behavior problems. And now I'm kind of trying to blend them back together a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it. For me, the biggest takeaway was like, I learned exactly what I didn't want to do. I'm very grateful for what I learned and what experiences I was given and the opportunities that were presented to me and how much was put into furthering my knowledge in dog training. But it did teach me a lot of what I don't want to do and how I won't train a dog.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that because that's exactly it. I learned what I didn't want, but I did learn a lot of really good things too of just how I didn't want to be a trainer. So I'm not angry with the experience at all. I'm very grateful for it. Let's get into some fun stuff because everybody's going to get bored with us at some point, but everybody loves dogs. So tell me about your dogs. Introduce me to your dogs.
My current pack of dogs, I have 4 dogs at the moment, ranging from almost 11 years old to 2, almost 2. I have 2 Belgian Malinois, a little shelter pit bull mutt, and then a boxer. One is, and I know we'll dive into this in another episode, but well-bred versus not well-bred, and what that means when choosing a dog that's going to be the right fit for you, a breeder that may or may not be the right fit for you, and what your needs are. With that said, 3 are not well-bred, and 1 is a well-bred high drive Malinois that I perform in sports, dog sports, protection, dock diving. We'll eventually do some rally obedience and some fun stuff, but right now she's my protection worth prospect. And the other 3 are just kind of couch potatoes. The performance Malinois that I was just mentioning, her name is Tiptoe. My other Malinois' name is Moose. He is 8 years old. And my pit bull mutt he was my first introduction into dog training. Well, second dog, really, but the first dog that I took to a professional training job, and he was my demo dog. He is still the most perfect angel baby who can do no wrong in the presence of ever. Yes. And then my boxer is 8. No, he's 10. He's 10 years old, and when I very first got into dogs, meaning got dogs as an adult, he was supposed to be a service dog. You can all laugh, like we know boxers don't make the greatest service dogs sometimes, but that was originally what his goal and idea was for. But that was quickly washed out by like 8 months old. So.
Oh, Wiggles.
I know. And his name is Wiggles.
Yeah. I've got 2. I've got my older dog. He actually turns 15 tomorrow. His name is Max, and he is just the cutest, most annoying at the same time little shelter mutt. So we don't really know what he is. His DNA test said husky mix, and I could see it because he does howl like a husky when he wants something. But his name is Max, and he has a bunch of health issues right now. He turns 15 tomorrow, but at the same time, he's going strong. So he has got doggy dementia, which maybe we'll do an episode in the future kind of talking about that a little bit because it's a hard thing. It is hard to deal with. But he's got dementia. He's got thyroid problems. He has got GI problems. He has got, he had like a stroke and 2 vestibular incidents a couple years ago. But you would never know it looking at him. He is so happy. He's so playful. He plays tug all day. He loves to run around still. Like he is going to be around for another 3 years probably, I hope. And then we have our German Shepherd Grimm, who's 5, who knows Sam very well. He loves to bark at her. She taught him how to greet people in the most obnoxious way by accident.
The most inappropriate way I could have taught a dog. That will be a very funny mistake I learned, but that'll be something that we can dive into. How we did it, what we did right as far as teaching a behavior,
Yeah.
but what we did wrong in how that behavior leaked into the rest of his adulthood.
Yeah. For the sake of it, you know what, I'm going to tell just the basis of the story, because I think that people oftentimes think their dog trainers' dogs are perfect, and we are not perfect, and we make mistakes. So Grimm, my German Shepherd, when Sam and I worked together at that training facility, he came to work with me every day. And when I got him as a puppy, I got him at 12 weeks. I'd bring him to work, and he would be running around the office before we were open. Sam would be playing with him or saying hi to him. And another employee would walk in, and she would like grab him and kind of restrain him, and she'd go, Grimm, kill. And he'd run at the employee barking as this cute little German Shepherd puppy because he was so excited to see them. And now, to this day, at 5 years old, this 90-pound German Shepherd still thinks that the appropriate way to greet people is to run at them with the world's scariest bark. And that is something that I am a professional trainer, and I have struggled to break that habit. So that just shows you that when your dogs are little baby puppies, you can really make an impression. And we're going to talk about how to not do that or how to do it correctly. But Grimm is fun. So he's 5. He is a reactive dog. He is both dog and people reactive. Neither one is super serious. So with dogs, it tends to be conflict-based. He's kind of just like the playground bully. If a dog is nervous and he senses it, he just likes to bully them a bit and make them jump. It is very, very manageable at this point. So it is kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, but also a good way to explain to people that sometimes genetics, because he's not well bred, sometimes genetics are going to limit what a dog's goals can be. And then with people, it's more insecurity. And one day I kind of want to talk about the things, because I think it was a mixture of genetics and some things that I did with him when I was a puppy that messed him up a little and made him nervous, because it's very specific to people approaching. And it's very, very manageable. Like, we go on busy walks. We go to like busy outdoor shopping centers. We go to the beach. Here where I live now, the bike path is a really bad thing, which to you probably are like, I don't even know what that is. But basically, we have like a paved bike path that everybody rides their bikes on and walks their dogs, and it spans like all of Cape Cod. So he has a very full life, but he's just a dog that needs to be managed. I just started a beginner agility class with him, and he loves it. We've kind of dipped our toes in the water of like nose work and barn hunt and some other things in the past, but he's not really a competitive sport dog. He's more of just, we do things for fun together. So yeah, I only have the two. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to dive into here?
But there's a lot of different notes and ideas that I was thinking of as you went on. As talking points and things we can hit on in other episodes, like rehoming dogs, because another dog that I've had recently was a little border collie sport mix, and that would be really cool to kind of dive into my experience with that dog and ultimately just how that situation played out and how we can just dive into that, because it's a normal thing that people have to face, as well as seeing like shepherds or like higher drive dogs and wanting to get into entry level sports and how to do things like that. I think that'll be really good to touch on.
Yeah, I love that. Those ideas, those are great. So through this podcast, I think kind of like what our goals are is we're going to touch on basically all things dog behavior. And I want that to be very vast. And I want to help all of you dog owners listening understand your dogs a little better, but also understand how to live happier with them. And I think that goes deeper than just training. So one day I would love to have some guest speakers and do some interviews with other dog trainers who maybe specialize in those things that Sam and I don't, but also dog sport instructors. And I would also love to get some veterinary type people here on the podcast too, particularly a dog acupuncturist and maybe a chiropractor, because I take my Shepherd to those. Yeah, we take my Shepherd to acupuncture, and we used to do chiropractic. And I remember the chiropractor in particular was talking about how dogs hold trauma in their tails, and how as little puppies, if you can get all of that straightened out, sometimes we can prevent behavior problems, which I found fascinating. So I'd love to kind of get some information out there too for those out of the box type of training, or not trainings, but out of the box ideas for people who need additional help and maybe the cookie cutter training programs aren't quite working. So I'd love to dive into all of that.
Right. Okay.
Sam, where can they find you?
Facebook and Instagram primarily. I don't do too much like video content, helpful stuff. I just do a lot of like, check what we're doing. This is the most recent dog in training kind of stuff. I don't do anything on TikTok either. So
Okay. I am creating us, don't worry, I'll take care of it, but I'm creating us a TikTok and an Instagram. So our handle will
oh, I
be
saw that. Yes.
On Dog Terms. And I will put all that in our show notes. And then my TikTok and my Instagram for my business are at MJ underscore the dog trainer. I'm also going to create a Google form that I'm going to put in the show notes so that if our listeners have questions or topics they want us to cover, they can either click that link and let us know on that Google link, or they can go onto our Instagram or TikTok and message us there and let us know what they want to hear. So our next episode, we're going to talk about how to find a dog trainer and how to choose the right dog training program for you. But until next time, happy training, and Sam and I will see you then.